Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Racers Driving League for Season 19, Round 19 of the Championship. Welcome to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexican Grand Prix and at the start of what potentially could, once for the second week in a row, potentially be the title-deciding race as Grumio goes into it with a 135-point advantage over that of Daniel Aron, last week's winner at COTA in second place. Grumio needs 5th place at minimum, 3rd place if Dan wins the race. So it should be an exciting evening regardless, as we look to obviously several battles happening all over the championship. So it should be a fantastic encounter, as it always is here in Mexico. I'm your host, Zach RC, taking you through all the action over the next 2 hours, and it should be very enjoyable indeed. As PJ Callo comes the first car out onto the circuit here in Q1. Of course, it's taken about a minute or so for everyone to start getting going, but PJ is the lone car on the circuit. One of the Mercedes cars is joining him. We've got Pope and Courtney Goblin back in for this evening's race. Of course, those two now are taking over 4th place in the Constructors' Championship over from Red Bull by 2 points, separating those two teams in the battle for P4. And of course, the Constructors' title heats up all the more as the season enters its final 6 rounds. And we do have Pope out on the circuit. Now, Pope sporting a slightly different name than he has done over the course of his RDL career. News filtered through this week that Pope had his account, had problems with his Xbox account, so he's on a fresh account, but has kept the Pope moniker, so will continue on as Tickle Me Pope, which is about as close as you get to his previous name. So hopefully the name change won't put him off in terms of performance tonight. Of course, he sits there P4 in the championship, still with an outside chance of 3rd place in the standings. Currently 31 points behind Landlord in the championship in 3rd place. Of course, Landlord's come alive in recent weeks because McLaren as a whole have come alive in recent weeks. PJ started his first lap. We'll keep an eye on Pope though as he comes around to start his first run. And it should be a very exciting run indeed as Pope looks to try and notch a second race victory this season. Comes through the last 2 corners here, out of turn 17 to begin that first lap. Of course, it's a long main straight, long charge down towards that first corner for Pope. One of the longest runs to turn 1 all season, if not the longest. I think it rivals Spain in that sense. So down towards turn 1 through 4th gear, of course, using a lot of battery in that main straight. ERS conservation could be critical over the course of this Grand Prix, particularly towards the latter stages as Pope rounds turn 3. Second DRS straight of 3 going down towards 4. Mexico almost a very similar circuit to Monza, but a bit more technical in certain parts of the racetrack, whereas Monza obviously is a lot more about flat out speed. Mexico similar in that vein, but obviously got to deal with this section of S's from turn 7 through to turn 11, through 7 and now 8. PJ Caleb fastest, 1 minute 16.3 on the board for the Aston Martin driver. Pope looking to try and rival that as he completes or nears the end of the second sector. DRS in play for the 3rd and final time, 55.79. Didn't see PJ's time, but looking good for Pope so far as he's come through. Only a few more corners to go through the stadium section here. Through turns 13, 14 and now 15, that very small left-hander there. Into 16 and through the last corner, stooping turn 17 back towards the grandstands to complete that first lap. And Pope, 1 minute 14.922. It's a solid start then from the Mercedes driver. No such concerns to start off for Pope as Grumio there unable to matches it but can't quite top it. Grumio 114.945. And on a day, of course, where Grumio doesn't actually need to win the race in order to clinch the title, it's a good start for him. And perhaps a sign that drivers will be able to compete with him this time around, given, of course, you think back to last week, of course, he didn't win the race in the end during last week's Grand Prix. But came away with points as Dan went on to win the Grand Prix. Contact between Grumio and Che led to a post-race penalty for Grumio, so finished off the podium in the end. It was a tough day to be stomached for the Williams team. Of course, as they fall a bit behind in their Constructors' Championship battle with Haas. 16 points the gap between Haas and Williams in the top 2 in the standings. Of course, McLaren 49 back, so they had a fantastic race last week with Landlord and AT. Landlord and AT, those two are the driving force here as they seek to try and become proper dark horses in this race for the championship. If Dan and Grumio and Haas and Williams keep tripping each other up, there's every chance McLaren could sneak in there and grab it. So a Constructors fight going on and could be poised to go to the very last round should both teams stay, or should rather, should all three teams remain as consistent as they have been over the course of the last 4 or 5 races minimum. Of course, McLaren have come alive with a string of good results and stand as contenders for that Constructors' Championship. I think it's an unprecedented scenario, at least in my time in the RDL, seeing a 3-way Constructors fight for the title, which could genuinely go all the way to the last race at Silverstone. Of course, the reverse group finale with a reverse track on for the first time in RDL history as well. That should be a very exciting encounter in just under 5 weeks' time from tonight. So look forward to that. Landau, though, P3 after that first lap. 1 minute 15.265 on the board for him. Ericsson is there P5. PJ in P4. Pope is retired, so calling it a day in Q1 after that first lap. EJ P6. We've got a full grid in tonight. And we do have... he is not in tonight. We do have one returning face, and that's a Divine Stag, who has rejoined the league to Mind as a reserve driver. I could be wrong on that. Not on the grid in tonight's race. It's all full-time drivers to Mind. Websy is back after an absence last week. He's obviously alongside DJ in the other Alpine on that front. Of course, those guys have now fallen 1 point behind Kick Sauber in the race for 6th place in the championship. Of course, Sauber team have also seemed to have found their flow in the last couple of rounds. HB Cook sits there 8th place in the championship. Ericsson's got himself off the board, 9 points for the season as well. So it's been an interesting one from a lot of different perspectives for a number of teams in the Constructors. And fights rage on all the way down the order. Obviously, as I said, that top 3 fight in the standings for the actual title itself. Mercedes and Red Bull. Of course, Mercedes may well extend that advantage they've got, from which is 2 points now, but could increase coming into the evening. We never know. Sauber and Alpine still fighting there for 6th and 7th. HB Cook P6 over the line, just in front of his teammate there. So 8 cars have now set times. You saw TJ there in P4. Sorry, apologies. TJ is in as the lone reserve in tonight's race. It's a full grid of cars, but he is reserving for Ben, not with us in tonight's Grand Prix. As Curtis goes 6th fastest for Ferrari. Of course, Ferrari and RB are still going at it. 6 points separate those two teams, 39 to 33. And Aston Martin, I wonder if they're perhaps looking over their shoulders, slightly nervously potentially, at the thought of being jumped by just one of those two teams after they spent the majority of the season trying to chase down Alpine and Sauber. It was a 3-way fight for that spot earlier on the campaign as the Aston slipped back in the last couple of months. So we'll see if Aston have got a bit more fight left in them in the closing rounds. Of course, that lineup, PJ and Ethan, one of the most consistent lineups in the RDL of recent seasons. There's a lot more cars getting their times in. JB there in the 8th spot, make that 9th as Imri crosses the line. Imri 3rd fastest. Of course, had a bit of a tough race in at COTA last week. Difficult start to the Grand Prix, led to a pit stop at the end of the first lap, but on soft tyres, went on a tear, and in the end came back to finish inside the points paying places. Currently P7 in the championship, so things have fallen away from him really a bit in terms of point standing. Of course, he's still chasing that first victory since back in season 16. So it's been a while for him. It's been a long time coming. And still just waiting for the opportunity for things to all line up for him. Because he's had chances this season and things haven't quite gone his way in certain regards. So we'll keep an eye on Imri as always. And we'll see if tonight is the night where he does indeed manage to pull it off. But obviously a lot of strong drivers around him. Pope there, fastest in Q1 right now. Grumio obviously looking to try and clinch the title. Dan trying to stop him. Even though it may feel rather inevitable at this point, I think for the Haas camp that they will lose the Drivers' Championship in that sense. Of course, McLaren, they're looking at a push for the Constructors. Websy's AC in P6. Websy obviously wasn't here for last week's race. He's had solid races in Mexico in the past. We've seen him heat up in the sort of latter stage of the season, but in the past, we'll see if he's got what it takes to do that once again. So currently, Grumio obviously a lot closer to everyone else. Rather, everyone else a lot closer to Grumio compared to sort of the last 2 weeks in Singapore and Austin, where Grumio would rock up to Q1 and set an absolute blistering lap. And the prospects for the evening all of a sudden didn't look great. Oh, and Curtis goes for a slide there, going through turn number 7. Oh no, sorry, I got myself mixed up. That was EJ. I focused on Curtis, but it was EJ who had the spin. So sorry, Curtis, for missing that. But EJ, though, on the circuit, P16 right now. Of course, full 20 cars means that we will lose 5 drivers come the end of Q1. Three of our 20 yet set lap times. Ethan is on the circuit now, sorting that as we speak. Courtney in 10th, both of them yet to leave the pit lane. 10th, of course, 22 points on the season, and is currently 8 points away from the top 10 in the Drivers' Championship. Given she joined the mid-season, very impressive for her. And, of course, we've seen her with a string of recent point scores. As Ethan rounds the last couple of corners to complete his first lap of the session. It'll be a 1 minute 16.4, which will put him into P16 on the P14, sorry, on the charts. Ericsson is in P15. Alvar, EJ, and DJ currently the lowest scorecards as it stands. Courtney in 10th, yet to leave the pit lane. Landlaw retires from P5, so obviously we'll start to see a few drivers sort of calling it quits. Chase there in P7. He's got himself out the drop zone now as he comes in to complete his first run. 1 minute 15.8 on the board. And only just 100th in front of AT in P8. So the top 8 still remarkably close, as they have been in recent races. Obviously, the gap there perhaps doesn't give you the full picture. Of course, we'll have a number of cars who are sort of up there, always challenging for the top spots. Obviously, Pope, Grumio, Imri, Dan, Che in most cases. Che with a rocky start so far, but likely we'll see him pick it up as we often do in qualifying. You think of the dominance that Che put in qualifying early in the season. That's been matched and then exceeded by Grumio and Imri, who have been far and away the best qualifiers in terms of raw pace over one lap this season. The difference being obviously Grumio has been able to put it together for a full race distance. HB Cook there, P14 at the minute, 1 minute 16.428 on the board. Currently 600ths in front of Ethan, who currently holds that spot in the drop zone. So it's quite close. Less than a 10th is HB Cook to the cut line there. Ericsson, his teammate, first car below. Still Alvar and DJ at the bottom. Alvar obviously he was in P16. EJ is saving himself. He's up to P12. I might get myself mixed up. I may have genuinely forgotten who it was a minute ago, but we'll keep on moving. And at the minute, Courtney Goblin out on the circuit now, so the Mercedes driver going for what will be his first run, and perhaps his only run, obviously, as we've seen him over the years in the RDL, going for those late runs in the qualifying session. 10th yet to leave the pit lane. But saying that, there she goes. So we'll have all 20 cars on the circuit in about 30 seconds or so. And it's Pope who tops the order, 1 minute 14.922. Only 200ths in front of Grumio, 23 thousandths to be precise. Imri there in third, just over a 10th back. It's a quarter of a second between first and fourth. Dan's there in fourth place. Landau in fifth, but another 10th back. It's another 3 to Websy, so the top 5 looking to sort of be in the class of their own early on here in Mexico. We'll see what 10th has got up her sleeve. Of course, this being a track where, as a reserve, she's managed to secure a podium finish in the first time of asking this circuit, which was obviously very impressive. The late safety car restart during that race. We'll see if she can perhaps render us a bit of deja vu in that Red Bull. As I say, 22 points for her in the championship, just from a few rounds of competition. Hasn't been here the whole season. Joined us around just past the halfway stage. She's up to P12 in the standings. Of course, that's helped Red Bull to keep in the fight for what was third, now fourth. Obviously, McLaren have a long pull away with those spots. The top 3 constructors have been dominant this season, it has to be said. And I think it's always been a common thing for me to mention the points distribution over the course of the campaign being a high number for those guys at the top and perhaps quite low scores. This sort of case, in the most cases, the same drivers in the top 10 almost every week. But saying that, almost every full-time driver has scored a point this season. The only one who hasn't, unfortunately, is Courtney Goblin, who resides there P19 in the qualifying order, but going through on his first flying lap as he rounds turn number 6. Courtney through turns 9 and 10, now 11. End of the second sector, 57.0. It's about a second and a half off of what Pope put in earlier on. So Courtney could potentially find himself sort of around P15, P16 with a good last sector. We'll see what he's got in the tank here on this closing lap as he comes through turn number 16. There's still 3 minutes to go, so he's got time for another lap should he want it. But obviously a lot of ERS being used as he goes P19 there. 1 minute 17.071. Tough lap there for Courtney. 10th is on a tear here. 28.3 first sector. Towards the end of sector 2, it's a 56.7 for 10th Cannon. The slide there through turn 12 going towards that stadium section. Keep an eye out for that. But not struggling too much for grip here. She rounds the last 2 corners, and we'll see what sort of time she puts in to complete this first one. It's going to be a 1 minute 16.2, which is enough for P13 in the running order. But a few tenths over the line. As I say that, there goes the Sauber of Ericsson, who's just put a lap down to a P12. So that moves 10th down to 14th. PJ currently the last car going through by 300ths to HB Cook, who's there in the bottom 5, but is going on an outlap now. As TJ retires, he's there in P7, of course, can't score points as a reserve, but want to do it for pride nonetheless, and obviously to advertise himself as a potential teammate for season 20. Which will obviously be coming your way in just over sort of 2 months' time. Of course, that'll be very interesting because the second season on the F1 25 game, people have had time to get to grips with how the game runs, how the game operates, and of course, everyone will be able to go full blast next season. So it should be very exciting to watch in that respect too. Of course, Grumio seeking 10 titles this campaign. It could be 11 next time around. Whether anyone's got the capability of catching him or whether he plans to hang it up, we never really know. Of course, the lack of a Grumio Landlord combination in the Constructors, that 1-2 package has not sent the competition reeling this season because they haven't been around, and instead they've been on separate teams. Grumio's Williams sitting P2 in the Constructors and Landlord's McLaren third place. Che and Dan, of course, have come together as the one almost indestructible force in that sense. And obviously after doing so well for Ferrari last campaign and sit back in season 18, have come alive in season 19. They're really pushing that Constructors title as HB Cook comes through to start what will be his final lap as we near the last minute here of Q1. It's PJ, HB Cook, Alvar, DJ and Courtney Goblin as 10th retires there. She retires right on the cut line. That could be a bit of a risk as HB Cook may well come through and set a time to put himself in the top 10. Slide there through turn 1. So I'm hoping I haven't jinxed him too early. Really pushing it. JB retires. 2 JB there in P11, likely going through. PJ is improving, and PJ is up by a quarter of a second. So that could put 10th out in Q1. If she's not careful, she'll be banking on PJ perhaps not improving anymore and losing some time in this final sector. Into turn 16 he goes. Went over the curb slightly there. I wasn't sure he'd gone for it too much, but he's managed to make work of it. And goes P13, so that'll knock 10th out. First elimination, he's there in P16. HB Cook is improving. He was 600ths up at the end of the first sector. We'll see what he comes out with in Sector 2. He is now almost a quarter of a second up himself, so big gains for Sauber. Here comes Alvar towards the line. Alvar goes into, stays 18th, improves, but stays there on 18th, so he is also out. Unless he's got enough time to go for the nope, he's out, almost out of fuel, out of battery. And the checker flag drops, and Alvar will likely be out. HB Cook trying to get himself through now. 1 minute 15, 1 minute 16.076 goes P13. That one put EJ in the bottom 5. But EJ is also improving. He needs less than a 10th or so to actually get to it. He's got over a 10th now, so things are looking good for EJ. If he can maintain things in these last sectors, try and knock Ericsson out in the Sauber. PJ Khaled there, P14, could still be potentially at risk. Alvar is out. DJ is improving by a 10th, but needs a bit more than that to try and get herself out of Q1. Courtney Goblin is also eliminated. EJ towards the line. EJ goes up to P10 there in front of his teammate Curtis. Ericsson goes out, so Ericsson 10th, Alvar and Courtney all out. Can DJ do anything about his fate at the minute? Last corner for him up towards the line. It will be checker flag and P18 for DJ, so he is out as well. PJ Khaled sneaks in by just by 36 thousandths over Ericsson in the Sauber. Tough break, tough start for those guys. And PJ will sneak into Q2 as Pope tops the session from Grumio, Imri, Dan and Landlord, your top 5. Websy P6, with a gap there between 5th and 6th. TJ P7, Che and P8, AT P9, and EJ with that massive last lap goes P10. Curtis P11, JB, then Ethan, HB Cook, and PJ Khaled all go through. And we lose Ericsson 10th, DJ, Alvar, and Courtney Goblin at the end of this first session. We'll see him later during the 36-lap shootout around the Ostromo Hermanos Rodriguez. So an exciting end to Q1 then, and hopefully a lot more to come. It should be a very enjoyable evening of racing. But of course, we'll have to lose another 5 drivers at the end of Q2. So have a look at your full order if we can. Yep, here we go. Pope is fastest. Only 23 thousandths but separate Pope from Grumio. So a close start. Things a lot closer than they were last week. So keep an eye out for that as we go into Q2, as obviously the heat starts to turn up for a number of drivers here in Mexico. Imri there in 3rd place, still with a good shout of perhaps pipping those guys in Q2 and Q3. Dan in 4th, Lando rounds out your top 5. 3.5 tenths covering the top 5, so a strong start, and about a second or so covering the top 10, the top 11. So it should be an exciting Q2, and we'll see who's got the speed to get themselves into that fight for pole position in about 15 minutes time. So into Q2 now. Lost those bottom 5 drivers, and we'll lose 5 more in just under 15 minutes. I see the Sauber team getting HP Cook set. There goes one of the Haas cars onto the racetrack. That'll likely be Dan. Yes, it is Dan. Who, from what I saw, I believe is still running the Japanese Grand Prix livery on that Haas. Yes, he is. It's a beautiful scheme when you do look at it. Of course, 135 points on is the gap in the Drivers' Championship. And there's still, including tonight's race, 125 on the table. Rather, with 150 technically on the table still. There'll be 125 left come the end of tonight. So Dan needs to outscore Grumio by 10 points plus in order to keep the title rolling to the next race, which could be difficult. I mean, we've seen how good Grumio has been at the circuit in recent seasons. To mind, he's the defending winner of the 100% race course. Won the title here last campaign. And of course, trying to close in on becoming a 10-time champion of this league. He's won half the titles that have been contested in this series. But Dan's trying to reel him back in as much as he can as the season enters its final 6 races. Here we go now. So Dan's Q2 lap gets underway, and pace will likely be on his side in that front. Of course, we've seen Dan fantastic in qualifying in the last couple of rounds, but of course has been unable to top the main guys who are often up front over the course of a single lap. In through turn 1, keeping the car controlled. A bit over the sausage curb at that first corner, but keeping the car under wraps. Yellow flag back in the 3rd sector. And obviously drivers trying to find some clean air, trying to find a bit of space for themselves as one of the RBs takes to the grass. Rather the lone RB, that's TJ. That's TJ. So down through sector 2, through turn 6, of course, very tight right-hander there. And up towards the S's. Back end looks slightly slappy going through turn 7. Let's keep an eye out for that on Dan's race car. DRS in play as he runs towards the end of that 2nd sector. 56.3 on the board for him. Only car not on the circuit is JB, who didn't go for that first run. TJ and PJ are both still on outlaps, but TJ obviously come through to start his lap in a matter of moments. Dan, final corner now through turn 17, up towards the line. Put himself at the fastest time, but 1 minute 16.033. Not as fast as Q1 time, to mind, which could be a slight concern. So Grumio comes to the last corner. HP Cook in P2, 1 minute 17.051. And Grumio 15.6. So it goes faster than his title rival. But Che tops that, 1:15.1. So these guys starting to get with it again. But obviously, as we've seen, the majority of first laps in Q2 are often done on that old set of soft tyres before they use the fresh one given to them for the start of Q2. So likely we'll see the times drop like flies later on. Of course, Q2 strategy will make this one all the more interesting as Imrie goes 2nd fastest. Grumio slips down to 4th here as Curtis goes P3. He was P2 a moment ago. He's down to 3rd now thanks to Imrie, but Curtis, good time there in the Ferrari. A number of solid bankers being set here as AT and EJ have both found their lap times deleted over the course of that first run. HP Cook there in 9th place now, 1 minute 17.051 off the pace. TJ in the final sector, 56.2 is set with his 2nd sector. And through turn 17 to complete that run, 1 minute 15.504 goes P3 himself. So Q2, obviously we're on worn tyres in the majority of cases, but it looks all the more competitive. Unless we have got drivers who are on fresh tyres, we can't really tell in that sense. Grumio now, I thought for a second was going to carry on, but avoided hitting the apex marker, the pit marker rather, and comes in. So end of this first run, down in P5. Websy there in P6, then Landlord behind him, then Dan, Ethan, HP Cook, your top 10. AT, EJ, Pope, JB, and PJ, all yet set lap times. PJ is fixing that as we speak. He comes through to complete sector 256.782 on the board for him. Of course, PJ being Aston's lone... Sorry, no, I'm getting myself mixed up. Ethan there, P9. 116.1 for his first lap. Can PJ top that? He can't top that. It's close between the two Aston teammates who seem to find themselves always gravitating to each other in these qualifying sessions, regardless of position. AT, EJ, and Pope all on out laps. But TJ there, third place. He's come alive. Even as a reserve, he's done a fantastic job. Of course, that first race back in Singapore was fighting for the points paying places. Can't score any, but can still fight for them. There's no rule saying the reserve has to give over for the main drivers, thanks to the point system obviously incorporating with the reserve finishers. AT towards turn 1. He's looking for a strong start to his Q2 here. Whether he's on his fresh set this time, we'll keep an eye out and we'll see depending on his lap time he puts in. I mean, Che's best lap was 1:15.1. And to mine, that is on his likely on his old set of tyres. So we'll see what sort of time AT puts in. 27:28.0, end of the first sector. On that all-black helmet. And as the Fire Machine works its way through turn 6. And really pushing the limits there. It goes towards 7 now, keeping the car controlled. DRS in play. End of the second sector now. 56.2 for AT. Last couple of corners. This looks to be a good lap that should be worthy of the top 10 if we can just hold on to it. Up towards the line, right the way to the inside wall. And P3 on the board, so knocking TJ and Curtis and Grumio down spots. Grumio back on the circuit, likely on his fresh set now. As is Websy, as is Landlord. EJ there coming through the last corners himself. Pope goes fastest again, 1:14.7 on the board. Big time for Pope, big gains there. JB there in P15. Of course, the last car to come through and set a lap. Didn't come out at the start of Q2, but has emerged onto the circuit now. Slide there through turn 3. We'll keep an eye on him here as he makes his way into the second sector. And really keeping things under control. So we'll see obviously where this puts him, because he was sort of in around the top 10 during Q1. Oh, and there it goes. A cut there at turn 11 will have his lap time deleted, and a tough start to JB's first run. Work to be done. And a toughie there for JB. So we'll come back to the pit lane then and cap things off for his first Q2 run. EJ joins him in the pit lane. 6 minutes to go, so time for another lap still for JB. Grumio still down there in P7 right now. And Not struggling. I wouldn't say that at all. Websy goes or stays 8th. 10 seconds down on his time. That's 2 drivers who've had that now. Landlord goes to P2. Big gains for Landlord on that fresh set. 114.909. And that will likely get him into Q3 here. I should think without a shadow of a doubt. But Dan currently the car on the cut line at the minute. 1 minute 16.033. He's just under a 10th up on Ethan in the Aston Martin. Currently it's P11. So we'll see what Dan can do to try and get himself out of that hole there in P10. Like on a soft set. There goes Grumio. And that is the Grumio we recognise. 1 minute 14.571. Put him to the top of the board. Pope still there in second, down second now. Landlord in third. Che in fourth. And Imri rounds at your top 5. Imri back on the circuit now. Curtis there, P8 going into turn 1. And perhaps a bit of risk there, because both Ferraris have been stronger in qualifying in recent weeks. Whether we see another one into Q3, I should think. Can we see both of them into Q3 potentially? Has EJ got the speed? So PJ there, P13. Both Aston Martin the bottom 5 as it stands right now. I mean, there's not a lot of difference between Ethan and Dan right now. Well, obviously that will change. Well, it could change here if Dan continues this lap. He's currently a 10th up at the minute. End of the first sector. And there he is. 4 tenths up now. Big gains being made. And likely, I'm sure we'll see some more in the final sector as he comes through to likely solidify his place inside the top 10. Can he get himself inside the top 3 perhaps? With a 114. It'll be 115, 151, but enough for 5th place, just behind his teammate by 300ths. Not a lot of difference there between those two. Those two about evenly matched. Imri starting a lap, but backing off a bit. Or did he just finish the lap, rather? Either way, there goes Curtis. No, there goes EJ going past. Che retires from the session. You heard the tyres sort of squeal a bit through turn 1. And down towards 4 now to complete that first sector. It's a short first sector here in Mexico. Well, at least it feels short. Just the 2 straights. But a 10th and a half up for EJ. That would be enough to put him over Ethan, who's on his out lap himself. Imri also retiring. Grumio going for it again here. I just think doesn't need to, but he's going for it regardless. And Dan's pit lane P5 from right now. The last time currently going through to Q3 is Websy with 1:15.674. It's another half second or so to Ethan. So Ethan needs a big gain. PJ, of course, needs that gain to a minute to go. Or just over a minute, rather. And obviously, still pressure on for a number of drivers here. EJ, Ethan, PJ, HB Cook, and JB currently on bottom 5. Ethan is out of the stage. Can't get onto the circuit in time to sit a lap. So we'll see here who's got the speed to get themselves in over Websy, who's currently half a second up and going for a lap of his own. Curtis is there and P9 has had his lap deleted, but may have time to get around and go for one more should he need it. I mean, he's there in P9, so he's at a bit of risk if we see some big improvements from the cars below, and it could happen. So I'd say better get around there in good time, Curtis. I think he's got a bit of time here. He's just going to try and get to restore some battery as best he can to really go for it this last run. And EJ is there. Perhaps a tow could be in play here as Grumio retires. The top 8 have all retired here. And Curtis will be leaving it right to the last second here to get himself up to the line and start that last lap, trying perhaps get a tow off EJ, or rather EJ, sorry, he's going for his own lap as he rounds the last corner, but he's down 6 seconds. So EJ will likely be eliminated and will not be able to give his teammate any help. Checkered flag is up. Ethan and EJ both out. PJ is 3 seconds down at the end of the first sector. JB is going for it. HP Cook there, P11. Has he got what it takes at all? He's on his last lap. 56.2 for JB. Things are looking potentially promising for the Williams driver who can get himself in this last corner. It's going to be quite close here, but can he pull it off? Can he get himself into Q3? I think he's going to do it. Yes, he will. P9 for JB and Websy now in the bottom 5. Curtis in the pit lane. JB going out would require 2 of the 3 bottom 5 drivers to improve and go fast. HP has time deleted. Websy is almost 2 tenths up, which would be enough to put JB down to P10. PJ has also had his time deleted, so JB is safe, but Websy could still knock Curtis out, and both Ferraris may well go out of Q2 here. PJ retires. Websy towards the line. Websy goes to P6, and that will knock Curtis out. HP Cook to the pit lane. JB, by the skin of his teeth, squeezes into Q3. Websy puts Curtis's dreams of a Q3 appearance well and truly to bed. Grumio fastest that session by a bit more what we're used to from the reigning champion and potential soon-to-be 10-time title winner. Pope there, still breathing down his neck in second. Landlord third. 2 Haskars, Che and Dan, 4th and 5th. So we're all set for what could be a very exciting Q3 between 10 of the best in the business. Over 1 lap. JB there squeezes in. What an exciting qualifying session we've had so far tonight. And it's not over yet. Still 12 minutes of quality to come. Followed, of course, by the full 36-lap shootout for the race win. We'll have a look at the results from qualifying. So Grumio fastest from Pope, Landlord, Che and Daniel top 5. Websy in 6th, Imri 7th, 88th, TJ 9th and JB in 10th. And with Curtis, HP Cook, EJ and Ethan all going out. Before we get into Q3, I would like to say thank you to Imri and to 10th Cannon for the 2 donations. Much appreciated there. Thank you guys so much. Oh, you don't need to do that. This content is completely free, but thank you regardless. Much appreciated. And hopefully Q3 will be as exciting as the first 2 quality sessions have been. So time then for Q3 to get underway. And looking forward to what should be a very exciting scrap for pole position with a slight wager on the line. Put in that donation by 1/10 Cannon. Saying if Premier doesn't get pole, then the £5 donation will get doubled. So we'll hold her to that. And we'll see here what happens. But that will be something a bit more interesting. And I won't say that I'm banking on Grumio to pull it a pole position here. But we'll just see how it goes. Obviously, the number of cars who could and will contend for that pole position. It should be very, very exciting to watch over what will likely be just 2 runs for the majority of these guys. Websy, of course, first race back in RDL after a week or 2 being away, and now finds himself there in Q3 with a top 10 starting spot guaranteed. And we'll see now, obviously short of a penalty. We'll see what he's got in his locker to try and fight for the space in the top 10. Websy's last race is Azerbaijan, 5th place finish. The last time you would have seen him on stream would be back in Monza, of course, that late puncture all those weeks ago. So we'll see if he can come back swinging. Currently 30 points on the board from the season. Currently 9 points behind Ethan in the standings. Everyone, and the same thing again, everyone except for JB on the circuit, as we have Mercedes of Pope coming through to start laps first. And that will be one of the Haas cars. It'll be Dan in behind him. And Grumio, oh, that was close to contact between Grumio and Landlord there. What are those two playing at? As Grumio finds himself in some kind of odd papaya sandwich there. And that felt a bit close to contact as Landlord took out one of the brake markers. As AT goes through, is there a team player foot from McLaren here? Will AT try and get a toe off Landlord as their laps begin? As McLaren obviously vying for their right to fight for the Constructors' Championship. AT, fantastic run there. Look at the speedy gains compared to Landlord, 216 miles an hour down the main straight. Fantastic speeds. Yellow flag, and Landlord, I think, has sacrificed his first lap. There he goes off the circuit. So Landlord calling in quits on his first lap. And AT then going for it. So likely these two will swap it around. AT will really want to get this lap in. Grumio is in behind him. But he's had his lap deleted too. So there we go then. Dan fastest, 1:15.2. Pope in second, 1:15.4. We were seeing 1:14s in Q2, so we could potentially be looking at one car running away. And there it is. Che there in third place. 1-2 for Haas right now. Sorry, in first place. 1-2 for Haas. Third car set time, 1:14.849 on the board. So first of what could be a few 1:14s we see in this session, especially given it is Q3. This is the one where all the marbles are put on the table. This is where everyone comes to play. AT there, making good use of that toe, goes second fastest. Of the four drivers who've set time so far, Websy next to the line. Websy goes fourth, 1:15.366 for him. Only in front of Pope. Of course, it's become a somewhat trend for Pope this season to be fast in the first two sessions and have something go wrong for him in Q3, but he's managed to recover it just fine over the course of the season. Of course, had it happened most notably in Jeddah, obviously quite a while ago now, but then came through and managed to take the win over Grumio in that 25-lap race. So should Pope need to go for a recovery drive today, it'll be interesting to see how he handles that. So Pope back to the pit lane then after that first lap. Lando 1:34.1, obviously, as we saw him sort of call it quits on that first lap. Grumio on his second lap now, or his first proper run. JB P9, Imri P10. So Imri didn't get a lap off the board as well. And there's the Alpine Websy obviously backing off there, going towards turn 13 as Grumio rounds the last couple of corners. Wobble there, going through turn 14 and 15. Up towards the line here to complete his first lap, and Grumio does indeed go fast. It's 1:14.6. Lando now in third place there, so finds big gains himself. And once again, it's the same top three who are gunning for it. So this will be a very interesting second round of runs. Imri fastest there himself now, and now Imri does indeed join the party. 1:14.581. And pace is there then for Red Bull on that side of the garage. As Landlord still running around there in fourth. Everyone's set a time now. JB with a 1:16.1. 7/10 off of Pope and P9, who'll be looking for big improvements on his second run. But Imri fastest there by less than a tenth. About half a tenth covering those two so far. Or just under half a tenth. There it is, 43 thousandths. And about a quarter of a second back to Che in third place. Lando fourth and AT in fifth. TJ, Dan, Websy, Pope and JB round out that top 10. And Dan is in a worrying position here, given obviously he won last week's race, but potentially could be looking at that championship going out the window at last. Grumio, of the two title contenders, Grumio has been far and away the faster of the two over the course tonight, and obviously as of course over the season is why he leads with such a big margin. But so things looking up then for Grumio regardless. The points will do him nicely if this was the finishing order for the Grand Prix, then he would be a 10-time champion. So first run's complete then. Pope back out on the circuit. Taking advantage of the empty racetrack to go for it again. No one else out there here yet. 5 minutes to go. And we'll keep an eye on Pope here. While also keeping our ears attuned to the pit lane to see if there is any movement. No movement for now, save for the Williams of JB being brought in. Pope then rounds turn 17 onto his second lap. DRS in play as he charges down towards turn 1. There's battery in play too. Don't take a chance to use too much of it. You can see him obviously back off of the usage. Dan out on the circuit now, going for himself. Both McLarens joining the track. Keeping on the order here between these two. Of course, it was Lando who went out there first last time for AT. This time it's vice versa. This time it's vice versa, sorry, for the two McLarens. So Lando may he look for a toe off of EJ. Pope here on that second lap, improving big time. Up by a quarter of a second at Sector 1. Up by 0.6 in Sector 2. This is looking big for Pope here. And kept the lap valid there despite going a bit close to the track limit going out of turn 12. But Pope could be looking at a good lap here. 3 minutes to go. And we're looking at cars leaving the pit lane now. Pope towards the line. Does go fastest. Not by much, truthfully. But Pope there is now up there in provisional pole. P1 for Pope. Che joins the circuit right behind the now provisional pole setter. Landlord and AT going through the last few corners here. Does AT give Landlord a bit of a charge down towards that first corner? What happens here between the two Papaya cars? Here we go. Will likely be last laps for both those two guys. And Grumio still in the pit lane. But will likely head out. There he is in right behind them as Landlord gets a good toe towards turn 1. AT backs out of the way. So Landlord goes dancing on by. And Grumio now on the circuit. His teammate JB in behind. So again, is there potentially a toe in play for these two cars? We'll have to wait and see. So Pope now on provisional pole. Landlord is on his lap, as is AT. Of course, so both cars come through. And we'll see what sort of improvements they need. Of course, if Landlord can gain about 0.3 or so, he'll be right up there chasing pole off of Pope. And the second sector complete. Landlord improving by just under 0.2. As you saw, that was Dan going 4th fastest. Che in 5th. And Pope retires, so calling it quits then for the qualifying. Landlord rounds the last corner. What can he do? Landlord towards the line. Landlord doesn't go fast. It's so close now. 0.2 improvement, but not enough to improve much. P5 for Landlord and will likely be that last lap. And AT, that's gunning it this time round. TJ in P8. Where is Grumio? Grumio starting what he'd be his last lap now. Only Webbsy and Imrie still on out laps. And JB trying to get a toe off Grumio towards turn 1. Again, teammate play still there. Webbsy is there in turn 6. Imrie starts his last lap. Of course, he is quite close. He's the closest to original pole there in P2. Doesn't need much, but neither does Grumio. And Grumio's doing enough as it stands right now. He's a few tenths over what he needs. Rather, a few thousandths over what he needs. JB in behind. So a lap time been deleted there. And that is Che, who stays in P6. Landlord 2. So both those two cars. So those two will not improve anymore. It'd be the third row at best for the pair of them. Dan starting a, what I think will maybe a final lap. Nope. Is he backing off a bit? He's trying to give Che a tow. I should think. 10 seconds to go. Landlord stopped there in the stadium section. Here comes Grumio up by almost a quarter of a second. If this could be Grumio pole once again. As he rounds the last corner to complete his lap. 1:14.2 for Grumio. Provisional pole. Checkered flag is up. Imrie is not improving by much here. Needs a big last sec to put himself on the front row. He's got a good chance to do it still. Landlord retires. TJ in P7 at the flag. JB P9. Websy could put JB back down to P10 again. Imrie goes second fastest in the end by 17 thousandths of a second. Fine margins here in Mexico. Look at the gaps. Just over a second covering the top 10. Fantastic stuff. Dan off the circuit. Che, I think not going for it here. Well, I think still going for it, but won't make any improvements. AT 3 seconds down. Websy is improving. He's a quarter of a second up still as he comes to the last corners. But running out of battery. And it's looking like this is Grumio's pole. As Websy rounds the final corner. Unless he's got anything left in his locker, it'll be P9 for Websy then, 15-1. And just waiting now for Dan AT to cross the line to make it official. There goes Dan. P4 in the end, and with a bit of work to do to keep Grumio from the 10th title, at least if not for a little bit longer. Grumio then on pole. He'll lead Imrie to the first corner. Pope qualifies third, and it's Dan in fourth. Landlord in fifth. Just under 4/10 covering that top 10, the top 5 spread. Che, then TJ, AT, Websy, and JB is your top 10, and that'll do it then for qualifying. And we shall be back with you in a few minutes' time with the start of the Grand Prix. Don't go anywhere, because this has the makings to be an absolute RDL classic. We'll see you back in a few minutes. So here we go, then the title hangs potentially in the balance for the second time this season in the Australian Hermanos Rodriguez. It's round 19 of the Races Driving League, season 19, and we could be about 45 minutes away from crowning a 10-time Drivers' Champion. Grumio leads the way by 135 points to Dan, has pole for the race. Dan starts down in 4th place for what should be a fantastic 36 laps as we look to potentially crown a champion. Have a look now, your starting grid for today's Mexican Grand Prix. 20 cars on the grid, 1 reserve, 19 full-time drivers. Starting dead last, it's Courtney Goblin on the backside of row 10. In the Mercedes, it's Alvar starting alongside him in P19. Both the medium tyres for Alvar, hard tyres for Courtney. DJ lines up in 18th place for Alpine there as they will try and push Sauber for the 6th spot in the championship. 1 point separates those two teams to the favour of the Green Machines. 10th Cannon P17 rough qualifying in Q1, of course, has a podium here as a reserve from a few seasons ago. Can she run it back today and try and get herself a points finish? Ericsson lines up P16, late knockout in Q1, wants to try and redeem himself in the Grand Prix tonight. PJ lines up P15, of course, fighting or trying to catch up to Sauber and Alpine, but also looking over their shoulders at Ferrari and RB. So that's Ethan and PJ. P14, P15, EJ in P13 there for Ferrari. HB Cook lines up P12 for Sauber. Curtis in P11, the second driver on the hard tyre. Because Ferrari also gunning, as I say, 6 points separates the prancing horses from RB, the two Italian teams, bottom of the standings here. JB lines up P10 for a Q3 appearance, another Q3 appearance this season, looking to try and close some more points to help Williams in the Constructors. Websy lines up in P9 for Alpine, 80 in 8th place on the medium tyre of him as well. TJ reserving once again in 7th position, the lone reserve on the grid. Che in P6, Lanor P5, McLaren still fighting for that spot to win the Constructors title. Dan in P4 needs to outscore Grumio by 15 points at least in order to keep the title moving. Pope with a new name, Tickle Me Pope, there in 3rd place. Imri lines up 2nd, still gunning for that first win in almost 3 seasons, and Grumio potentially 36 laps away from clinching the championship. And a quick look at your circuit before we get underway. It's 17 corners here on the Austrian Hermanos Rodriguez. A bit like Monza, but a bit more technical in certain parts of the track, and potentially serving a real challenge. With 100% race last season, not this season. That'll be the Brazil race next week. And as it stands now, looking at perhaps having the title wrapped up before we even get there to the party capital of the world. Courtney Goblin takes the last spot on the grid then, and work about to begin for these 20 drivers as the lights get set to come on here in Mexico for round 19 of the season. Grumio on pole once again. It's lights out foot to the floor, and we are racing. That long run down towards the first corner gets underway here in Mexico. Good start from Grumio, covers off Imri going towards that first corner. Imri moves into line, might come to pressure from Dan going towards turn 1, down to the inside. Of course, big toes there in play towards turn 1. Grumio leads away, Dan and Imri side by side through the first couple of corners here. Turns 1, 2 and 3 all linked together. Grumio charging away here. It's the dream start from he leads away. Car going wide. That's TJ in the midfield. Going a bit wide out of turn 3. Maintains P9 for the minute. 80. And obviously, where's he made passes? So he's down 2 spots here as Curtis also put him under pressure going towards turn number 4. The Ferrari trying to win out over the RB. Can't quite do it. Grumio leading from Imri and Dan in 3rd place. Che in 4th. He's holding off Landor for that 4th spot. Pope is there in 6th position. Websy 7th, AT, TJ and Curtis were side by side. JB trying to get it back off Curtis. Over the grass there a bit for the Williams driver, but gets the move done through 7 and 8. Good pass there for JB, put himself back inside the points paying places once again. Curtis now back down to P11. HB Cook, then EJ. Then from there, it's more or less as they were, save for a few positions change in the back here. Courtney going up 2 spots behind, over Alvar and Ericsson. Take a moment to breathe there as the first lap reaches its conclusion, and Grumio leads over Imri, but Imri is on his tail here. He's about 6 tenths back and using ERS. We used a lot of battery in that first lap, as did Grumio, of course. It's an ERS heavy circuit is Mexico, and it'll be crucial on these DRS straights too as these guys fight for any bits of speed they can pull out their machines. 80 disconnecting here, so tough start for McLaren. Of course, Landor there in P5, so not really gaining much on either Haas or Williams, given that obviously McLaren running their P5, P8, as I say, so not a brilliant start. Need a bit more out of those guys to try and close that gap. Of course, 49 points in the Constructors going into today, as TJ makes the pass on AT, who's AI and may chuck in the towel a bit in some of these fights compared to how we know the real AT would fight. AI not really reminiscent of the real drivers in that sense. Grumio, though, still leads up front. Dan is currently sitting in that 3rd spot. He'd rather, if the position was swapped, then that would work out nicely So things as it stands at the minute, I believe I got actually my calculations wrong. Grumio only needs 3rd place to secure the title. Because of course Dan needs to gain 10 to bring the gap down to 125. So things looking tough for Dan at the minute. If things were reversed, then it'd be a lot easier for Dan because he needs Grumio still to drop a place. But perhaps Imri could help Dan, help Dan a little bit here. There's DRS in play, and this could be a lead change. These two quite a way in front already. Imri's used almost all of his battery, but it pays off for him as he takes the lead. As Grumio's still got half his tank left this early on in the race. But a lead change in for the first time today. It belongs to Imri as his teammate 10th Cannon finds the pit lane here for Red Bull. And a tyre change there. 10th on to set hard tyres. I thought for a second it'd be a wing change, but no such thing for the moment. AT once again reconnecting and disconnecting. EJ 3-second penalty first of the evening then as Grumio harasses Imri through turn 5 and towards 6. Dan is still in 3rd, and Che, Landlord, Pope and Websy are top 7. It's a slight bit of gap back to TJ, who's currently by himself there in the 8th spot. It's almost 2 seconds back to JB in 9th. So JB holding on to that spot, could go back over Curtis. But both cars up a place now. That being over AT, who of course has had his AI take over in his first few laps. So obviously moving him down the order. Just 10 points being scored for McLaren right now through Landlord. 20 points being scored for Williams through Grumio and JB. And 27 going the way of Haas. So Haas still currently scoring the most. With both their drivers in the top 4 as Grumio goes to that move again. All of a sudden that changes and it's 27-27 for both Williams and Haas. So no such change in the constructors for now. That lead of the minute hinges on whether Imri can keep the top spot away. As HB Cook goes for a double pass there. Makes DRS work going towards turn 1. But Curtis not willing to let him go just yet. Oh, just slightly bit of tap there. As Curtis now trying to find a way back around this Sauber. Sliding the rear end there as he left turn 3. JB behind him. DRS in play for both cars here. As AT, not sure he's back in the action just yet. As EJ goes wide behind as he's being challenged by PJ on the outside there. Sorry, make that Ethan. Apologies. Going through turn 6. Back up front, Grumio obviously leading the way once again. It's almost 3 seconds from Imri to Dan. So these two, I mean, from the minute, are cut above the rest as it stands right now. So keep an eye on this over the course of the rest of this first stint on these medium tyres. Dan still holding on to 3rd place. Grumio fastest lap, 1:18.103. Of course, no fastest lap point to have an impact on the Drivers' Championship. Landlord, though, looking to try and make a move and make something happen here. 18 to the pit lane here this early on. Is there damage on that car, perhaps? Not entirely sure what the game plan is. He's retired it. So 80 out then. That's a big, big loss for McLaren. Just 5 laps into this thing. It'll be down to Landlords to try and get their points from here. Try and gun for a podium finish if you can. But obviously, he needs to contend with these two in front of him, the two Haas cars who have been a brick wall since the first lap. Top 2 pull away. Dan not having the pace to try and keep up with these guys right now. I think he'll probably be banking likely on Grumio and Imri perhaps making contact and that knocking the 9-time defending champion out of the order, or at least at the very least down the order to try and gain some more points. Of course, Grumio only needs 3rd place minimum to secure the title because obviously at that point Dan can't gain any more than 10 points if he wins the race. And Grumio at this stage, I think long fated to win on countback should it come to that, but it shouldn't do at this stage of the season, I shouldn't think. It will likely be over tonight, and that, we were saying that's what we all thought last week until the collision between Grumio and Che at Kota. As Imri now tries to get the lead back from Grumio. Of course, you see the difference in battery between these two. Imri pushing his tank a fair bit more than Grumio as it comes to blows, or slightly comes to blows there. Contact made as Imri moves back into line, tucks back in, may try and get Grumio back with DRS potentially. On the run towards 4, but Grumio with a good enough exit to sort of maintain the lead for now. So neither driver counting their chickens just yet. Obviously still a long way to go, still 30 laps even when they cross the line. Landlord there, P5 still. So 10 points from McLaren. And obviously, Lando trying to close on Dan in the Drivers' Championship too. He's got an outside chance there. He's currently about 32 points back rather from Dan. Exactly. Che has dropped down to P5. Of course, has the victory this season at Zandvoort. He's currently 2 points behind Pope, who he sits 2 places in front of now. So likely we'll see Che move back into P4, of course, running a long time third this season. Landlord has sort of upended him in the race for that spot. But if Che can somehow try and find a way to fight back and get himself towards that top 3 once more, I'm sure he would be very pleased with that, and obviously will likely help Haas in the Constructors' game. On to lap 7 here. Again, it's a close battle up front. We'll move further back in the order here. 10th Cannon dead last of the running cars. Now P19 thanks to AT's retirement. Alvar back in the train with Ericsson and Courtney Goblin. DJ there as well. It's all single file back here. At least right now it is. EJ trying to close on JB. Can't make much of an impact from there. Curtis has pulled away. Of course, he was right there with that train. But now HB Cook is leading the Express through Mexico City as it stands. And JB will be looking at thinking he'll want that last points paying position back, that 1 point, which could obviously prove crucial to Williams in their championship fight later on. It's 25 points now going Williams' way as Lando's made a pass, so it's 25 to 25, so it's dead even. Again, the gain between, well, there is no gain between Williams and Haas. They keep themselves as they are, and Lando gaining 12 points, so will lose out with McLaren. And that will put him back to 61 in the standings, I believe. Back to number 62, given the 13-point gap, rather. Bit of a wobble there from JB as he rounds turn 12. He's not going to really sort of struggle for grip. It was rather open in practice in terms of struggling with tyre temperatures. He comes into the pit lane here. So an early change in the offing for JB. In he comes. We'll see if DRS has any impact on this fight on the racetrack now, as HB Cook will have full control over that last point paying place. EJ with one of 2 penalties that have been distributed so far tonight, but now currently in P11. JB onto a set of medium tyres. Ericsson looks to have joined him in the pit lane. Hard tyres getting onto that race car. The Sauber is now away. And that'll mean that 10th Cannon have a bit of enjoyment here of someone to race going down towards turn 1. So JB rejoined in P17, Ericsson behind 10th and P19. DJ and Courtney side by side. They're racing for the 14th spot. DJ up the inside. Courtney trying to switch back. Courtney might well do it potentially if it's enough for a run on corner exit. It won't do, but the idea was definitely there for the Mercedes driver. So we'll keep an eye on that, because that could be an interesting scrap over the next few laps. Everything's nice and smooth here between those two, as DJ now pulls a 7/10 gap to Courtney. And Imrie into the pit lane here. So first stops now well and truly underway. One of the lead cars comes in. Websy will join him. Imrie onto a set of hard tyres. I doubt he can carry those to the end from here. We may be looking at a slightly split up stint. It'd be obviously a full 27 laps from here should Imrie pull that off, rather 28 laps if we count this out lap here, which we should. So Grumio now left by himself on the circuit. He's 2 seconds in front of his championship rival Dan. Dan still sits in 2nd place. It is Landon in 3rd place over Che in 4th, and Pope rounding at your top 5. Pope right on Che's tail here as he heads to the S's. Not giving the Haas driver a second to breathe. A good enough exit for Che will mean he likely avoids the threat of DRS going towards turn 12. And we'll see if Grumio stops this time as well, because we've seen him run quite long on tyres in the past. Stays on the circuit. But will we see anyone try and enter the pit lane? Landlord's slowing up for a second there, but just a poor corner exit. Doesn't pit. Che and Pope also staying out, so I think for now, the top 5 staying as is. TJ is coming in. Curtis will not join. Curtis was one of the 2 starters on the hard tyre, as Landon now makes the pass on Dan for 2nd place. Ethan stays out, but PJ comes in. Imri's rejoined here in what is now P10 and right behind Courtney Goblin for P9. DRS in play and a good move being made there as he uses overtake to get around the Mercedes driver. So Imri now in P9. But trying to avoid losing too much time to the cars behind. He makes the move here down the inside of Ethan. I think Imri knows in terms of pace that he may well be around or on par with Grumio tonight. And this may be maybe his best chance in quite a while to clinch a victory. But of course needs to not get in his own head and make sure things go right for him. As Curtis, as EJ is putting the Ferrari under all sorts of pressure here. DRS in play. And we'll try and clear him before the braking zone. Yes, he will clear him before the braking zone. EJ backs out of it and lets Imri go. Runs a bit deep there for 12. But keeps the car under wraps. So move Imri then into the 7th spot. None of the top 5 pitting just yet. So everyone stays out for now. Curtis is still there, one of the 2 hard tyre starters. Him and Courtney Goblin as Ethan now finds the pit lane. DJ and Ethan were yet to stop. So almost all of the medium tyre starters have made their stops, save for the top 8 of those. So still over half the pack to minus. EJ goes for a big slide there through turn 1. Saved it, but I was concerned. He's been on those medium tyres for 10 laps now, so I imagine they're starting to hit the cliff. The medium tyres bring out a lot faster on this year's game compared to previous. Imri 2.7 seconds behind Curtis. Of course, we saw the charge that he went on in last week's race while on those soft tyres during what was then his second stint. He came back to score a P5 finish in the end after penalties were applied. Grumio was scored as P6 thanks to the collision between him and Che. Yellow flag, and that is the Alpine may have gone this time. Yes, DJ's around. Losing the car at turn number 10. Sorry, 11, turn 11. Oh, that was very close there. And I dare say we were this close to a collision between PJ and DJ. And whether that wing damage has got anything to do with it, I doubt it does. I think DJ may pick it up himself. But that was remarkably close there. And a bad placement for PJ to run wide. Well, I think it's bad timing. DJ finds the apex bollard as he finds the pit lane for the first time in his Grand Prix. Imri now right on the tail of Curtis. Look at the charge he's made in the last lap or so. Now right behind the Ferrari. And clearly pace is there as Pope makes the pass on Che in the S's. Good move there from Pope. But can Che get him back? It doesn't seem as though that's the case for them for the minute at least. Keep it on the main straight and we'll likely see a move being made as Landlord now in second place over Dan. But Pope and Che now about 5 seconds back as Che tries the outside. Then Pope defends the inside and keeps himself in front. But Imri now in P6 and 6.4 seconds back from Che and Pope. The gap to the lead is currently 14.2 seconds. So Imri will likely emerge in front, but may well need to stop again in this race. So as he hit so early, Che makes the pass once again on Pope, so gets himself back in front into 4th place again. Websy passing EJ. Courtney Goblin may also try and join in on this party on those hard tyres. EJ's tyres likely hitting the cliff, likely worn out. And Courtney's works Mercedes finds its way around the Ferrari and up into 9th place. Of course, the lone 2 drivers with 3-second time penalties to their names in this Grand Prix. Over a quarter of the way through this thing and nearing the halfway stage, which will come at lap 18. Curtis there still in P7. Of course, one of the cars who hasn't stopped yet in this Grand Prix. He is one of 8. A bit of a slide there through turn 12. Oh, a bit of a slide for Pope too. and hit the wall. Be careful to avoid going any further into that wall, Pope. As Landor comes in. And Pope, I think, also will join him. Yes, there goes Pope. So 2 former champions find their way into the pit lane. Landor emerges on a set of hard tyres. It'll be same thing for Pope as well, I should think. Yes, it is. Courtney Goblin now in the pit lane. And calling an end to that first run. Courtney rejoins in P17 then. And the majority of the pit stop phase is pretty much complete here. Obviously, Landor and Pope both pitted. I can't imagine it being too long before we see Grumio, Dan, and Che coming in. Dan actually closing the gap to Grumio here, 1.7 seconds. I think Grumio may well bring about an end to his first stint. But Dan has kept things constant since having clean air. But we'll need a bit more than that to try and catch Grumio, pass him, and gain enough points to keep the championship rolling to Brazil next week. Of course, Dan did actually win out last season in the end. Grumio took the flag, but post-Stewards report it was Dan who was classed as the winner. So there they are, top 2 in the championship pitting in. Imri now in the lead here, and will develop quite an advantage. But as I say, will likely need to stop again in this Grand Prix run. I think Grumio and Dan could potentially go to the end on those hard tyres. Obviously, a safety car will work for Imri tyre-wise, but obviously lose him a lot of track position as Curtis now sits in second place, yet to stop. Websy now in third. So Websy has jumped, I think all of these guys potentially here. What a run it's been from Websy so far. Landlord now in front of Grumio. Dan is in 6th place. So Dan at this point not in a position where he can score enough to stop Grumio from becoming champion. Something that's for the minute may have to take the back seat. Imri now, in terms of gap to Grumio, who was fighting position, that gap currently sits at 11.5 seconds. We've seen Grumio run down big gaps before, but that was when he had almost complete clean air and was not fighting Landor the entire way. Websy is 3 seconds in front of these guys and actually closing on Curtis. Might actually look for a move at some stage, perhaps down the main straight, but Curtis can go for a few laps longer, so Websy can't afford to lose too much time given the spot he's in as his teammate DJ. 3-second time penalty, third of the evening, to be handed out to a driver. Curtis stays out. And we'll keep an eye on Websy as he goes for DRS and battery on corner exit and absolutely blasts past Curtis. Moves into the second spot. And we'll see if Grumio here going towards turn 1 can take the place away from Landor. We'll keep an eye on him in this first sector. And no such luck for the minute, it seems. So Grumio not getting too much as Landor will hold on to 4th place. Websy still there in 2nd. Having made that pass on Curtis. Behind them, still down P6. TJ in P7 now. Pope down to P8. HP Cook 9th and Che currently rounds at your top 10. So the order looks slightly must here, of course. A different strategies being run in terms of tyres in this race. And that should make things very interesting in the second half of the Grand Prix, I should think. As we do near the end of the race, where obviously Imri's tyres will will hit the cliff a lot earlier than Grumio's will. Websy 8 seconds back from Imri now as he begins to try and stretch that lead as Curtis moves out of the way and land on Grumio just in time here. Curtis is in. On to lap 17. Dan fastest lap, so Dan is closing in. But Grumio making the pass on Landlord now. And want to try and build a lead to avoid Landlord getting back at him. Both cars have DRS off of Curtis going towards turn 1. Curtis on medium tyres. Now he will emerge likely in the 14th position behind 10th Cannon. PJ Keller down the points paying place as both he and Ethan get around Ericsson. And a rejoin then for Curtis, puts him, as I say, down in P14. So Dan, though, closing the gap. He's 1.5 behind, 1.4 behind Landlord. He's bringing it in, but Grumio will like to try and pull away. His 10th cannon gets hit with the penalty. Grumio is now less than 8 seconds behind Imri, so time's being gained without a doubt. When can Grumio go for the move here? He's a bit ambitious to go for it going towards the stadium section, but you never know. This is Grumio we're talking about. Look how much he gains just in the braking zone. Websy goes wide and Grumio tries to take advantage, but Websy covers him off. That wily old fox who continues to get on the nerves of these guys who are trying to get around him. Grumio finds a way through on the inside, trying to wrestle his way past. On corner exit, DRS will be in play. Grumio fastest lap behind Websy and takes P2 away. That was close to contact there as Lando goes for it. Could try and go for a nice little 2-for-1 deal on Websy and Grumio towards Timon. Good toe. Can he outbrake his longtime rival? Can't do it. Grumio holds on to P2, locks up a little bit, but keeps on chugging away in second place. Pope now making the pass on TJ for P6. And behind them, the Aston Martin's fighting here. Ethan takes away P10 from PJ. Ethan scored just over double PJ's points this season. Yellow flag, and that is, I believe, DJ again. DJ's slow in the second and third sector. That's that's a big bit of wing damage there lost for the Alpine, who may have had some kind of altercation again down at turn 12. Sorry, it's turn 11, apologies. So Imri now has a lot of work cut out for him in the second part of this Grand Prix. Yellow flag again. That's one of the Mercedes cars. That's Courtney Goblin, who's off through the grass. And DJ retires it. So second retiree of the race here. Down to 18 cars as Imri begins the second half of this race. Grumio's getting another second here. 1 minute 17.559 fastest lap. And he is absolutely hauling here. Landon's keeping with him, but didn't get DRS that time, so that won't help his case. So Imri's in a rough spot at this stage now because he's in the lead, yes, but his stint is likely halfway up on these hard tyres, and he may have to split the stint to try and get a bit more F out the other tyres, perhaps on a set of mediums towards the end. As JB gets a penalty, P18 for him. It's been a tough race so far for JB, obviously after that Q3 appearance, qualified P10. Grumio 4.3 behind now. Landlord's keeping with him, and Dan's now in DRS range. So these two could try and get on Grumio's nerves a little bit, potentially, and trying to keep him away from a championship. Dan, of course, is currently losing 8 points compared to gaining the 10 that he needs. He'd need to be in second and have Grumio down in 6th position. So Pope needs to be in front of the champion for that to happen. Dan now fastest lap, so it looks like Grumio is being reeled in a bit by Landlord going towards turn 1. So Imri may gain a bit of time back if these two keep on fighting. There goes Landlord making the pass on Grumio. Cool as you like into turn 1. Yellow flag, and that looks like one of the... Looks like the other RB, looks like one of the RBs. It's Alvar, I think, it's got a problem. It's all clear though. Green flag back out. We'll keep an eye on it. I think it was Alvar going slow. I'm not too sure. PJ passes HB Cook for the last points paying spot in P10. Landlord obviously is now there behind with Grumio and Dan right behind him. So Imri is still 3.3 in front right now. But we'll need to manage those tyres. It's been on them for 11 laps. And he's still got another 16 to go when he crosses the line, and 3 of the fastest drivers in the league, if not the fastest drivers in the league, breathing down his neck. Well, they could be in the next few laps or so. Yellow flag again. That's one of the Ferraris. Looks like Curtis has gone around. Curtis off at turn 6. His teammate goes flying through there. 10th in behind as well. 10th on those hard tyres for 17 laps. Of course, was the first driver in earlier on in this race. Imri now the gap within 3 seconds as Landlord is closing in. Grumio is also trying to go for it. Can't do anything for now. Sounds weird. Dan is still in P4 right behind these guys. Obviously, if he can try and win the race from where he is and Grumio finishes off the podium, then that'll do nicely for Dan. That'll keep the championship rolling to the next race in Brazil. I think that'll be his ideal scenario right now, as opposed to having Grumio down in P6. So what does Imrie do from here? Because he's kind of, as I've been saying, he's in a tight squeeze from where he is now. Those guys are closing in on him rapidly at the minute. They're gaining almost a second a lap, I should think. He's got to hope they start squabbling with each other enough to actually allow him to take advantage. And whether we see one last stop from Imrie, whether he tries to run these tyres to the end, I think it'll be tough for him to win the race either way without a safety car suddenly intervening. But there's 15 laps to go, and Grumio knows he's 15 laps from the title if he can stay where he is right now. Doesn't need to do anything crazy, just needs to bring the car back. As Websy pits here, he's been on those hard tyres for 12 laps himself, make that 13 so as he crosses the line. And so Imrie and Websy both pitted on the same lap, so if Websy's tyres are struggling, does that mean Imrie's are as well? And does that mean we may see second stops from almost everyone in the field, potentially? PJ, Ericsson also pitting as well, so we could be seeing second stops maybe in this race. I mean, tyre attempts have been a struggle for these guys today, at least over the course of practice and qualifying. In terms of the race, if we're seeing 2 stops, then likely we could be doing the same sort of thing. Che disconnects. He's there running in the 6th position. He's got Mr. TJ down his neck. Of course, if he loses that spot, he won't lose the championship points to TJ, as he is, of course, a reserve. Ethan behind in P8. That's a good 4 points going Aston Martin's way. Put them on 59 for the season. And a 1 point gain between Sauber and Alpine as HP Cook and Websy run P9 and P10, but that could change. Websy making that pass would tie the pair of them for P6 in the Constructors. Imrie in the pit lane, there he goes. He's done 14 laps on those tyres and he'll probably go another set of halves to the end. Yes, he is. So that will likely mean that we should see late pit stops, I think, from everyone else, because no way that these guys, if Imrie's doing 14 laps, no way can these guys all make it on tyres at 9 or 10. Imrie will rejoin here in the 7th spot. Ethan, HP Cook both also pitting as well. Change is made there. Hard tyres on for Ethan. Oh, as he rejoins just in front of the Sauber, who is now pitting himself. Big hard tyres on, looking at hard all the way to the end now. Curtis and 10th, the lone 2 cars on medium tyres. Both of them made stops in the last 6 laps. 10th has just made her change a few moments ago. About a lap ago at this stage. So this all looks to be very entertaining then, as it stands right now. And there is still a scenario at this point in the race where Grumio may still not win the title today. It would require him to finish off that podium and for Dan to win the race. So it's not off the table completely. But that all depends on whether or not we see another stop, or if Pope catches up. The DRS in play for both cars. Grumio moving to the inside will take the lead away from Landlord. They're side by side in turn 1. Lock up from Grumio, and Dan trying to take advantage. Can't do it for the minute, but stays in line. But Grumio now in front, and 13 laps away from his 10th championship. He's just got to hang on. Pope sort of by himself there in 4th place, 4 seconds back from the leaders. TJ still in P5. He's got Che right behind him, and Imrie is joining the party on his fresh hard tyres. JB being passed by both Aston Martins here down to P14. 2 Astons on fresh hard tyres. close battle up here, up front. 10 and 11 laps done hard tyres for the top 4. 15 in TJ's case. He gets past both Imri and Che. Those two still quite fast because Imri on fresh tyres, Che on worn tyres. Yellow flag, and that's Curtis who spun it in the last sector and has almost been caught by a train who would have been almost powerless to stop themselves perhaps running into him. But Curtis will now fall outside of the points as Cockney Goblin goes past. But PJ may as well have that place for himself. Down towards the first corner. PJ's hanging back. Ethan's going for it though. PJ Khaled penalty. There it is then. Cockney Goblin has not scored a point all season long. Today looks to be his best chance, but will likely need to stop again. Whether we do see these guys try and hang on these tyres to the end or perhaps bank it in for a set of mediums or softs. Curtis penalty as well. Let's look at your penalties. 5 drivers with 3-second penalties. Cockney Goblin has 6. So as it stands right now, Cockney likely won't finish in the points if everyone stays bunched up. Safety car would obviously botch everything for those cars who do have them. Of course, things will change dramatically if those guys up front, or if one of them gets a penalty. Of course, we've seen Grumio get penalties in the past and then just start pulling away, trying to build that lead and really fighting for it. Cockney Goblin gets one now, or gets a third one into the pit lane. So whether I might get that removed potentially for if you got it in the pit entry. Grumio 6/10 in front of Landlord, and Landlord 4 in front of Dan. Pope still in 4th. Imri is obviously around Che now, but deep there through turn 7, going towards 8. Imri now 9.5 seconds behind Pope, and overall he is 14.3 seconds off the lead. And I doubt he can catch up at this stage on those tyres. He'd need some sort of intervention. So it's down to these 3 then for the race win, but Grumio looks set for the championship either way as Pope pits. Pope's done 13 laps. And likely Landlord, Grumio and Dan, as Pope has just shown them, are now all within medium tyre territory. So things could get mighty interesting here. If these 3 all stop and come in for fresh mediums, they'll fight each other and likely they'll try and fight Imri for the race win. They're 13.2 in front of him right now. So likely they'll emerge sort of around 7-8 seconds behind, and that is gainable, I think, in 9 laps. It's under a second a lap. I think likely they'll be able to do it. Imri's had good pace today. It's been a strong race for him regardless of finishing position here. I'm sure he'd love to add the win to try and get his 3rd career victory in this league. It's Landlord who leads. Grumio still getting 3 points on Dan. That brings the championship gap to 18, which is obviously not enough for Dan to keep it rolling. So Grumio is 9 laps away from being season 19 champion with 5 rounds to spare. It's a fantastic tally. And all 3 cars are staying out. Imri now 11.6 behind, so he definitely is gaining. But will he gain enough? He needs to gain over a second a lap in 9 laps in order to do it. Grumio goes blasting past Landlord. Dan, we're going to try the inside. Another lock up from the champion. Landlord looks to be hanging on to 2nd place. Yes, narrowly hangs on. And these 3 continuing to show why they're the best in the league. Ericsson, time penalty. RB and Ferrari both on points right now, but that gap in the standings between them looks to go back up to 8 points. EJ would need another 2 penalties, and well, actually, we're saying that TJ is a reserve, sorry, so I'll get myself mixed up. So a good day for Ferrari then. 4 points going their way, so there'll be a 10-point gap between those 2 teams in Ferrari's favour as we go to Brazil next week. And we'll see if Ben's back, and we'll see if he can try and close that gap down a little bit. Slide there for JB through turns 1, 2, and 3. Turn 2 and 3 kept the car under control, but turn 1 split. He's got Curtis on his tail. He'll no doubt be pleased with his teammate's performance up there in the top 10. Of course, both these two cars did make Q3. Oh, big slide for Curtis there. Wait, sorry, I'm just getting wait, is that correct? Am I getting myself confused? Nope, sorry, Curtis, apologies, got knocked out late in Q2. He was the first car out, so he's down 4 spots in this race. In terms of position change in this Grand Prix so far, biggest gainers have been both PJ and EJ, both up 5 places each. A number of cars down 4 spots, those being Pope, JB and Curtis. These two have struggled in today's race. Grumio still leads. We're on lap 29 of this race. We've got less than 8 laps to go. And Imrie, as it stands right now, I think will not catch these guys in time. He's now within 10 seconds. He's going to have a lot of work to do. He's going to hope these guys start fighting each other as Grumio may well start to extend his lead. Landlord there in second place still. Looking to be almost a second out of range here. It's going to be very tight coming to that detection point, which will be here, going through turn 15. And I think he was just out of range. And we've reached the point now where I don't think any of these guys can actually pit. No DRS for Landlord, but DRS for Dan. So I think it isn't close enough to actually go for a move for this. Long straight can be deceiving towards turn 1. Blue flag's about to be in play here as Curtis will... bolt on a fresh set of medium tyres will likely go a lap down here to these guys. Pope passing Che, those guys racing for the 6th spot. Websy in P5, about 1.7, 1.6 in front of these guys. Pope is charging back for that 5th place finish. Red Bull, as it stands, gaining 2 points, so it will tie the championship. Or should Pope get around Websy, that will tie the championship for them. But Red Bull now in the advantage by 2 points. It's gone from being 2 points in Merck's favour to being 2 points in Red Bull's favour. So things working out for Imrie right now, as those guys fight for P4 in the constructors, and Imrie, of course, fighting to try and gain as much as he can on AT, who's had obviously a retirement. So things worked out quite nicely for Imrie. He's gaining 12 points at the minute, which will put him just 5 behind the 6th place driver in the championship. If he can close in enough, and at this point I'm doubting he can, just because of how little time there is left in the Grand Prix. I'm thinking that'll be as close as he gets today. Of course, a 3rd place finish could put him just 2 points back. I think Dan is banking on Imrie closing in. There's 6 laps to go now. Landlord tries the inside for a second, doesn't do it. Grumio locks up again there. Really punishing these tyres. And as those tyres hit the cliff, you think Imrie will start to close in a bit more. He's gaining almost a 10th a second now. It appears he may have turned the burners on a little bit here. Never really sure in terms of the timing. He's got nothing to lose from this. He's trying to catch up with himself on the podium, but perhaps a bit of collision between these top 3 may well open that up for him. Grumio, though, knows what he's doing. He's been in this position many times before in his RDL career. And that position at this point is dominating. And when he crosses that start line to begin lap 32, he will be just 5 laps away from his 14th win of the season. He scored 10 more wins than any other driver. Dan has scored 3 wins. He is the closest to Grumio right now. Grumio is 5 laps from win number 14 of 19 rounds this season. DRS in play for both cars. Both cars reeling themselves in. Dan and Landlord both going for it towards turn 1. Landlord pulls alongside. And Grumio slides it up a little bit. Goes a bit deep. Has the inside line for 2. Covers Landlord off. It's close between these guys. Very close. And could we see a very entertaining late spectacle between these 3 gladiators of the racetrack for what will be an exciting race victory? Landlord's still going for a win that he hasn't had all the season. Imrie penalty. I've just spotted that, so apologies for not noticing that sooner, but Imrie the penalty now, and I'd likely render his chance that a podium finish could put at this stage. Be P4 from at best, unless there's a retirement in front of him. So that charge is now likely over, and it'll be down to us, or just these 3 drivers for the race win. And Grumio Now likely a lot odds on for the championship unless he crashes out. If Grumio was to not score from here, Dan is in a spot to try and keep it moving to next week. But it's looking unlikely from here. A Grumio penalty now would mean that Dan potentially could pass Landlord for the win and tie the 10-point gap, but Grumio would then still win on countback by a long way. There's not enough time left in the season for Dan to reach Grumio's count, so Grumio would still be champion. There's Landlord to the inside at turn 1. He's still side by side with Grumio off of 3. Here we go. DRS in play for Landlord towards 4. Grumio trying to cover him off before the braking zone. Dan looking around for an opening here. Can't quite find one. They're still side by side. Grumio gets back in front for turns 4 and 5. Dan trying to stick up the inside. Can't quite do it. And they remain in this train. Imrie 6.3 back right now. He is closing that gap. And the more these guys fight, the more chance he's got of closing it in. But he needs to get around all 3 and then gain 3 seconds. It's looking unlikely from here. Unlikely, nigh impossible for Imrie to win this thing with 3 laps to go. And again, these guys spread out a bit. Again, Grumio builds that advantage just by a little bit. But Landlord will be in a good sort of range here. If he can maintain this little sort of gap that Grumio has built, if he can try and close it a little bit, because he'll still get DRS here, then maybe he might be able to try and come back at him. Landlord a bit slow there off of turn 17. That'll slow down up too. 3 laps to go. Grumio 8 tenths in front now. DRS in play, both cars. No DRS for Grumio. Landlord closing it all the way in, but again, can't quite get close enough. Dan staying where he is as well. Imrie 5.6 behind, so still closing in fantastically here. The charge this late in the race compared to these guys has been phenomenal. Dan dropping back here and knows his championship is going out the window here. Well, somebody saying obviously Grumio has had the lead all season. It's not yet been, I don't believe he's actually yet had the lead taken from him. Perhaps one of the early races on this season, perhaps we may have seen Dan in the lead of the championship early, but Grumio has absolutely commanded the season. No, but scrap that. Sorry, Grumio won the first 4 races of the season, so Grumio has held the lead the entirety of the campaign here. It's been hugely impressive, and he is 2 laps away regardless of the result here. He's just got to finish the race in the top 3, and that'll be enough for him to win the title. So Grumio then will round turn 17. 2 laps away. He's 8 tenths in front of Landlord, who will need to pick it up now. He's going for it. Landlord sort of waiting and then trying the outside now towards turn 1. Yeah, there he goes. Landlord perhaps here waiting for the opportunity. Oh, contact between the pair of them. Another car takes damage, but Landlord takes the lead away. Is it now go time for these guys as Landlord shows the way? Landlord looking for a first victory this season to make it 5 different race winners in season 19. There's Imrie in the back of your picture now, 4 seconds behind. Grumio will have DRS here for the run towards turn 1, and you know that he will make use of it. Oh, contact! And Grumio taps Landlord, who looked to have backed off quite early there, into turn 12. Landlord's going to want this race win. He's got all his battery left. Grumio's a lap away from the title if he stays where he is. Landlord looking for that race win though. 1 more lap to go. The bell lap here in Mexico. Grumio 1 lap away from the title. DRS for 2 of the 3 cars. Landlord's got good battery, but Grumio has got back DRS as well. Towards turn 1, the reigning champion moves into the lead. Can Landlord get back at him? It may just be curtains now. That could be game, set, and match then in the way of the Mexican Grand Prix victory. Grumio has DRS and ERS to his effect. Landlord perhaps went for the lead a bit too early. and looks to be, once again, coming home in second behind his longtime rival. These two are both champions at the top two, arguably, in the history books here in the RDL, but one driver has risen above the rest this season. He's been a cut and a half, if not 2 cuts, above the entire competition here, and Grumio is now just 1 sector away from a 10th driver's title. There have been 19 seasons, including this one, contested in the history of the Racers Driving League. This is dominance beyond any other level we've ever seen. And as he did 1 season ago, as the stadium section rises to greet him, he's got 2 corners to go now. Salve Grumio dominating here in the final corners in Mexico, takes the lead in the final lap, takes his 14th win of the season. Salve Grumio crosses the line and becomes a 10-time Racers Driving League Drivers Champion. He wins here, his 14th of the campaign. Landlord in second, Dan in third, Imri in 4th place, 5th goes to Pope in the end, 6th to Websy at the flag. Che fell to 7th. Tough race for him. And in the end, it'll be Williams who close in a little bit then in the title race in the Constructors. That fight's still very much on. Landlord keeping McLaren in it with a 2nd place finish, of course. TJ, another fantastic reserve performance there. 8th place for him. It'll be EJ and then Ethan coming through, and Aston Martin may end up with 2 sets of points in. Sorry, PJ has got 9 seconds, so EJ will hang on there, I should think. Perhaps not. It'll be close here if HB Cook might be able to get him. HB Cook nabs the last point. There he goes. So 1 point for Sauber then. EJ P11, then PJ, Ericsson of the line, 10th Cannon, then JB. Curtis going for it on Courtney Goblin on the final lap. He'll make the pass on that front. Courtney, though, has penalties to its effect, 9 seconds worth. So Alvar will come through for what likely be P15 from all these guys. So there you have it then. Grumio then wins for the 14th time this season and becomes champion for the 10th time, at least provisionally. He drove a faultless race today, and there was no real concern in terms of the stewards having anything to say about that drive. Celebrations then beginning for Williams, who had to wait a little bit longer this time round, but they've done it. But Grumio has done it once again, and he is your champion for season 19. Dan there finishing in 3rd place, will likely come up 2nd in the championship unless Landor can catch him. He gains 3 points in that hunt today. But the title going to Grumio, and a common sight in the RDL. And there you have it, 10-time Drivers' Champion Salve Grumio. We'll have a look, if we can, at the final results from today's race, if it comes back on my screen, which I doubt it will at this stage, which is annoying because the game continues to do that to us. But there you have it. That is your race. Post-race interviews will start in a matter of moments. I will be back shortly, and we'll get those underway. Okay, welcome back. So there we go, have it then. If you just joined us, you just missed the ending to the Mexican Grand Prix round at number 19 of season 19 of the Racers Driving League, and at least provisionally, at least for now, Salve Grumio is the drivers' champion. It's been a dominant season, and we'll see if we can get anyone in for a post-race interview. But yeah, I mean, 14 wins this season. You can't fault Grumio at all on that front. He's been the best stall campaign, and obviously Dan's given him a fantastic run. Props to Dan, and props to obviously all these guys who have given a right fight. Props to Landlord too, who, of course, who kept with these guys the entire race. That battle for second place in the Drivers' Championship will be very much entertaining, and the McLaren fight as well, as they look to try and get back in the Constructors' Championship race. Only a few points between Williams and Haas, so things still looking rather tight on that front. So we look forward to seeing who comes out on top in the Constructors' Championship over the final 5 rounds. We do have Pope in here now. Pope, welcome into the stream. Points finish on the board, boys. Talk to us. How was that there?
Oh, hold on a second. You're cutting out. Hello?
You hear me?
I can hear you now.
Excellent. Right, so then obviously in the MP5 finish for you. Just talk me through the race, mate. So quite a long one out there.
Yeah, it was long. Shocking start per usual, and I think that kind of ruined any aspect of the race because my setup was a lot more downforce than everyone else's, is what I figured out during all that. But still somewhat enjoyable nonetheless. Just couldn't protect the tyres at all, and yeah, probably not where I could have finished if I had a better setup and stuff, but it is what it is.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, still a points finish to start the Tickle Me Pope legacy. Obviously, if you'd be so kind to sort of explain to the viewers as to what's happened with the name change as of late.
Yeah, got banned back again. Just not as openly weird is the only way I can describe it. But yeah, we still live on as Pope, and that's what it needs to be.
I mean, we were close to calling you Joyful Poet, so I'd rather not have done that because that would have been confusing seeing you out there and calling you something that's not Pope. But anyway, back more to the racing. Obviously, 5 rounds to go this season, and I believe with that result, it's now tied between you and Red Bull, Merc and Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship. So is that still a fight you guys are confident you can win in these last 5 races?
Let's do it, champ. I don't know. Like, obviously, as I always say, it's not really my focus point. My focus point is the drivers because, unfortunately, once again, Cottony was so close to getting points this race. It's just not really been a two-car team, which I love Cottony. I mean, no offense to him when I say that, but it's just not gone his way, getting those crucial points towards the end of the pack.
We'll have to wait and see if we can try and change in these last 5 rounds. Of course, Brazil next week, the 5th 100% race of the season. Looking forward to that one?
Yeah, I don't tend to do bad at the 100% races, actually. I think I've got a couple of P3s and a P2 in Belgium, and I had a really good one in Belgium, actually. Azerbaijan, we don't talk about that one, but...
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, well, exactly, so it didn't actually happen. But yeah, no, I'm excited for it. It's always fun to do the 100% races, and yeah, it's gonna be interesting because it's normally a 2-stop, which is fun.
Have to wait and see on that front. Obviously, good job on the points paying place and some more good points for the Drivers' Championship. We'll come now to 10th Cannon, who came home unfortunately in P14. 10th, slightly tougher day, not quite the deja vu we were hoping for, as we said last week. But I mean, how was it out there? I'll ask you that.
Didn't feel real, to be honest. I was running on like 1% mental battery for like 15 laps. I think I made the mistake of eating a pizza when I was out in Q1, so I think I probably should have taken a precaution on that and not had something to eat because I was falling asleep. I nearly retired a couple times, to be honest. I thought I was gonna end up being a danger, but I pulled through. Nice to still get some positions, I guess, to improve on the P17 starting spot, but yeah, just want to forget. I hate this setup. I hate this track. Oh well, better luck next time.
In terms of next time, Brazil next week, is that a track you're confident about?
I don't know if I'm confident about any tracks anymore. I just kind of turn up and hope I do well. But I like Brazil. It's always been one of my favorites. And it's 100%. And since getting back in the league, I haven't had great success in the 100% ones. I had to miss one, and then I didn't finish the other because I was also rubbish. So he's hoping for better results. Yes.
You know what? Yeah, that's one way of looking at it, without a doubt. I mean, obviously, as I mentioned with Pope, the drivers' championship fight, sorry, the constructors' championship fight between Mercedes and Red Bull now, to my mind, tied dead even with Imri's 2 extra points over Pope. So, is the aim to try and get a few more point scores to try and boost the chances of Red Bull later on in the season?
If Imri can keep reliably finishing the top 5, then yeah, I've got really not much to bring to the table because the bottom 6 or the bottom 4, no, the bottom 5 points paying positions really don't pay out that much. So those generally are the ones that I tend to inhabit, save for that one P5 in Zandvoort. But if I can keep reliably doing it, then we may be onto something. But it's going to be the reliably doing it that will be the hard part, I think.
That'll be the thing to keep an eye out for in the next 5 races then. So, I mean, in terms of those 5 races then, obviously Brazil, Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi, and Silverstone. We have to mark out one track to actually get a point score out. Which one would it be, do you think?
Vegas. I'm going to fall out of the DRS train, I think, but I think it's such a weird track that, like, you could just avoid dying and win that way. That is a fully reasonable way to win at Vegas, or to get good at Vegas. Tie attempts shouldn't be too much of an issue because they will be stone cold anyway. So I won't have to worry about that. So maybe it might become good in quali. I don't know.
So Vegas will be the one to keep an eye out for, potentially for 10th Cannon. But of course, there's still one race in between that, and then that'll be next week's race in Brazil, the 5th 100% race of the season on the 20th of October, same place, same time on the Zach RC channel. That'll do it then for coverage tonight here in Mexico. Hope you did enjoy it. If you did, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more future RDL content. Congratulations again to Salve Grumio. It will be confirmed later in the week post-steward report that he will be the Season 19 Drivers' Champion. Until next time, have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you in the next race. Goodbye.